Hello, everyone. This is Seth, one of the co-hosts of Engage Podcast, to bring you today another great episode of Engage Podcast. But before I can get into that, I have to give you my world-famous announcements. If you are listening to Engage Podcast for the very first time, whether you're on Spotify, Google Podcast, Podcast Addict, Chromecast, Overcast, YouTube, wherever, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you can get notified every time we come out with a new episode of Engage Podcast. It's going to be on your phone waiting for you. If you haven't had a chance yet, go ahead and go over to our YouTube page. The link for that's down in the show notes. You get to actually watch the podcast happen in real time, so you get to see the guests and be a part of it and sit at the table with us. Also on our YouTube page, you'll find all kinds of good content for you. We're doing some fun things such as a music review section where we listen to a song by, right now we're doing the band U2. We listen to their music and we watch their music videos and we give a raw review and reaction to those songs, and we review it and try to see if what the song is about and how can we redeem it and make it about Christ. And you'd be actually shocked by how many U2 songs are really actually about biblical things. So that's on there. Also, there's our live stream service every Sunday at 11 o'clock on our YouTube page. You can find it there, and if you don't feel comfortable going to church physically, you get to be a part of the church that way. Our guest today is such a great person to get to know and get to sit down with. His name is Alex Papa. If you're from the Newcastle area, you know the Papa family. Alex is a very young and inspiring businessman. He really is. He owns PapaGelatoria in Newcastle, right on pretty much if you're from Newcastle, it's between the courthouse and the high school, right as you're about to, if you're on Mercer and you're going down the hill towards Mill Street, it's right before you get to the bend. It's right there. Fantastic place. Sadly, I'd never actually been there before we recorded this, and I've been back a couple times since we recorded it. Great place, great guy. I do have to apologize a little bit, though. I don't know if it's because we were remote. We actually recorded this episode at location. I don't know if it was a traveling or what, but the microphones were kind of giving us a little bit of a hard time. So, but for like 90% of it, though. Is all good. So, but anyways, it's still an amazing episode. Liked having Alex on, and we hope to have him back on. So give it up for our friend Alex Papa.
Welcome back to Engage Podcast. We are so excited to be out of the office, out of the studios, and we are sitting here today at PapaGelatoria. Yes?
Yes.
We were struggling with that earlier today, but I think we nailed it. So this is really cool because we have the privilege of sitting with Alex Papa. How you doing, Alex?
Good. How are you?
Doing awesome. Seth?
I'm doing amazing. Got coffee, beautiful backdrop. Huge fan of this place, so yeah, this is awesome.
Yes. So where we're sitting is, if you're not familiar, if you live in the Newcastle area or surrounding areas, we are at 318 Highland, Pennsylvania, of course, Highland Avenue, here in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. So if you live in the surrounding area and you need some excellent coffee in your life, we strongly suggest you come down here. You're actually going to learn about some other things that they have here. Of course, you have some incredible items that I'm sure we're going to talk about, right?
We have gelato, we have pastries, so we have like scones, like all your coffee shop pastries. So we do scones, we do homemade biscotti, we also do homemade baklava, and then we also have basically cake squares. So we normally have like lemon or orange, so they're real authentic Italian flavors. Let's see, am I missing anything? Oh, and we have our newest item would be our Panini Sandwiches. So we do home-style capicola, which is a real authentic Italian. If you know what capicola is, it's really, really good. Genoa salami, vegetarian, which would be our fresh mozzarella, tomatoes, and then arugula. But yeah, that's pretty much all we have to offer right now, but we're always looking at new things, so.
Okay. So you didn't start out with all of those things. Why don't we go back in time?
Yep.
Because you're 19 years old, correct?
Correct.
And is he the youngest person we've ever had on the show? Why not?
Yeah.
Yep. So you just set a record for us.
Awesome.
That's what I'm trying to do.
When you started this, you were basically 17 years old.
Yeah. Fun fact with that, I was not legally allowed to own this business when I started it, so my dad had to basically own it, and then they signed it over to me on my 18th birthday.
Very cool.
But, yeah.
So tell us what inspired you to do this?
So we're obviously, our family's from Italy. It's the last name like Papa. It's kind of hard to mess that up. So we're from Italy. We went when I would have been in 9th grade at the time. We went and visited our family over there for the first time. And it was a real neat experience because it's a big Italian family. We went over like Christmas and New Year's and that kind of stuff. So there's all kinds of celebrations and everything. We would have went and I tried gelato over there for the first time. And if you've never had gelato before, it is just like way, way different than ice cream. It has a lot more flavor. It's a lot more filling. Just as soon as you taste it, you'll notice it like right off the bat. So I was like, we should bring this back here. I think it would go really well, especially in Newcastle, because I know there's a lot of Italians here. And it's just sort of a part of the heritage here, so it made sense to bring it back here. And then my dad actually had like an ice cream shop and gelato shop here in the late 90s, but then he closed it down. He went to law school and that kind of stuff. So I knew one had been here and one was successful before, so I knew that going in.
Wow. I didn't know your dad.
Yeah.
had that.
Yeah. It was real neat, too. I don't know why they closed it down, honestly.
What was the name of that?
I believe it was like the E Street Parlor or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. So fast fact for those listening out there, his dad, Christopher, and I went to high school together.
Yep.
So I taught him everything he knows about ice cream making.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. Maybe. It failed, though, right?
Yeah, it failed.
I didn't teach him that
I wouldn't
part.
take credit for that.
I take back everything I said. So we learned kind of what inspired you to do this. You went to Italy, you tried the gelato, and you thought this would be really great because in Newcastle, if you're not familiar with Newcastle out there, we do have a large Italian, and very ethnic population here. Mm-hmm. So you started off just with gelato?
Yeah, so our first season we just did gelato. We had 10 flavors and we had 2 different sizes. It went really well. We opened kind of later our first summer in 2019.
We went like end of June, and then we went all the way through October. But yeah, it went real well. And then at the end of the season, we did like a cool Halloween festival to close out and everything. Everyone seemed to like it a lot. But then next year rolled around, and then we would have opened in April of the great year of 2020, as we all know. So obviously that was much different, a lot of different challenges that we weren't really expecting to face there.
But I mean, we made it through. Obviously, we added online ordering. We did all the social distancing, everything, hand sanitizer, like the shields and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And then we did just takeout, just online. But everyone adapted real well, and they still kept coming out, so we were still able to open.
So, if somebody lives in the area and doesn't want to necessarily hang out here, bring their computer, do work, they can call or message you somehow. Yeah,
so we don't really do calling orders right now. We do mainly just online because it's a lot easier for us. But I mean, if someone calls me and tries to order, of course I'll fulfill the order for them. But yeah, it's super easy to do if you just go to our website, www.PapaGelatoria.com. It's spelled just how it sounds. You can go on there and you can pick from any of our items, add it. You can pay on there. You can even schedule a time to pick it up too. So if you want to order it, if you're at work or something, and you want to pick it up later, super easy to do. Everyone seems to like it a lot. We haven't had any issues with it. So.
Well, that's nice to stay, to be adaptable like that. Some folks, I found coffee shops, a lot of people like to sit down and kind of get unplugged from the world. But then also a lot of people are just on their way to work.
Exactly.
In a hurry, so you've kind of adapted and made that possible to where if somebody wants to order, a cup of coffee and and some dessert to go with it, you can have that ready and it can swing by and
Pick it up.
head on to work. Yeah.
No, and I'm real excited too, because obviously we do that now and it's super convenient, but we're in the process of adding a drive-through too, which will be a great game changer for that. Just to offer that where you don't have to get out of your car. You can get any of our products from the drive-through, just pull up, go through the drive-through. So I think that'll be real amazing when that opens up.
So you're young now, but you were even younger when you started.
Yep.
Tell us some of the obstacles that you faced getting this place up and running.
Oh, so many obstacles. Well, for starters, this place hadn't been touched in at least 15 years when we moved in, so there was naturally, we had to reconstruct everything, rip out all kinds of stuff. We had to deal with mold, mildew, just rebuilding the whole front entranceway pretty much. The roof, I believe, was caving in, so we had to rebuild a lot of that. So like just getting everything ready and on time. Also, being 17 years old, I knew pretty much nothing of what I was doing, so I had to sort of teach myself, you know, setting up everything. There's all kinds of licenses and all that kind of stuff you have to apply for and all that, everything. My dad was able to help me out a lot of that because he is a business lawyer, so I had some help, but like a lot of it is kind of up to me. Just making sure, like running payroll, all that kind of stuff, making sure everyone gets paid on time. It's just a bunch of small things that add up to a lot that you have to learn how to set up real quick. But yeah, made it through.
So how important is loving what you do? How important does that fit into the equation?
Oh, really important, because that's kind of, if you're not motivated to do what you do, then you're not going to succeed. Like if I didn't like what I'm selling, if I didn't enjoy coming here, I just wouldn't come here. Because like, why would you? Because I'm not getting rich off of this for sure, especially now. I'm a college student. I'm about as broke as I can be. So obviously I have to like what I'm doing to be here. If I'm not motivated to be here, I'm not going to succeed. So
you know what I thought was funny is speaking to you being broke. You know how when you come to do the podcast, usually he buys us the coffee. We're buying him the coffee.
Yeah.
We're buying him the coffee. We're like, what do you want, sir? It's your own restaurant. He's like, I can't afford anything. I haven't tried it yet.
No, yeah. In my defense, you guys snuck up there and bought your stuff before I even knew it was happening.
See?
But of course, I didn't fight it.
Yeah, right. Let it go. Why fight it?
Yep.
I'm glad, because one of my favorite places to go for coffee was Two Rivers.
Yes.
Here. And I was really sad. I don't know what's going on there. There seemed to be, I don't know what it's like.
Yeah, I don't know if they're closed or what their situation is.
No, they haven't been open though.
They haven't been open though, for
Since
sure.
March of last year, right?
Yeah.
And so that was my favorite place to go. They, bring my computer, do some schoolwork and such. And so I've been like looking for another local place that was like that to go to. And I was in here the other day, and I was like, this like it has the same kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, and in the summer too, one thing we have that they definitely didn't have is that view of the whole city, because we're sitting up on top of the hill. So if you're out here doing work in the summer, especially in the afternoons, like it won't be super
crowded, and you can just sit out on the deck and drink your coffee, eat your gelato, and do your work. And there's really nothing quite like it. It's nice because
it's an experience along with the products that we sell too.
Of course. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like that word experience. I think most, we're getting away from like box stores and we want more of a niche. With everything we're doing right now, it's kind of the pendulum swung the opposite way now.
Oh yeah.
So people like that handcrafted, caring, personal feel. And we were talking earlier, and he was mentioning. I asked him about his coffee. Where's he getting his coffee?
Yes. So our coffee, it's we do like the coffee roasting, that kind of stuff. It comes it's roasted in California technically, and then we get it shipped out here. But it's roasted like fresh weekly, and then it ships real quick, so it's not like you're getting a stale product or anything. You can order it online too, and it'll be delivered to you. It's all free shipping, which is really neat if you want any of the things We offer a couple different roasts, I believe. And then we normally have some in the shop you can purchase too, but it's been going so well with that we haven't been able to keep up. Everyone's been buying them. So we'll try to get those back in as soon as we can.
You mentioned something about the acidity of the coffee.
Yes, so all of our coffee, it's organic, it's fair trade certified. And what that basically means, if you're not familiar with that, our coffee's smooth. It's incredibly smooth. In fact, all of the drinks, like the stuff you're drinking right now, I can guarantee you we put not a single bit of sugar in that. It's all just the coffee and the cream. Like your macchiato you have, not a thing of sugar. We put sugar out there for people to put in. No one notices. I think I've had 3 people maybe put sugar in their coffee just because it tastes that good. They don't need it. And I think that's the game changer. It's not actually needing to pump your coffee with that artificial stuff because it's way better for you then.
I can tell you, I didn't know that. I was here a little bit earlier, and I bought the coffee, and I was hanging out. But I noticed right away that the coffee was not acidic. It was very smooth. So that's one of the first things I noticed. It's a very, very good cup of coffee.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so you said you have other sweets too, homemade. I bought a biscotti, and you have some baklava over there. What are people buying the most of?
Probably the scones, honestly. That's what I would say, because we moved through the scones real quick. They're all homemade, fresh from, if you guys are familiar with La Manja Bakery down the hill, they do all our scones, our cake squares, that kind of stuff. And
how do you know you're in Newcastle when every restaurant is just straight up Italian?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's great.
So for those who didn't catch that out there, say the name of the bakery again.
It's La Manja. So it basically means, I believe it means like eat.
Yeah, mange.
Manja. Yep.
That's one of those Italian words that I think no matter where you are, even if you're not familiar with the Italian culture,
you just know what that means.
You heard mange, you know, and so that's great.
That's awesome. So, with your startup business and everything that you've been doing, how important is networking with other people in your local area?
Oh, extremely important, especially now because it's a really hard time for small businesses. So if we don't stick together, we're all going to fail. Because all those big companies and big corporations, they can afford to weather a pandemic just fine. They don't really need our support at all. But all the local small businesses, first of all, if you're nuts enough to start a small business in Newcastle, you need all the help you can get. And then second of all, just being able to because I obviously offer coffee and the pastries and stuff, but like we support, obviously La Manja does all of our pastries. We also support Arlington Market on the east side. They do all of our meats, all of our cheeses. So like I could have gone with like a much bigger company and it probably would have been a little bit cheaper for me, but I'd way rather stay local and support the local businesses. I'm trying to think here. I know there's a couple other. Our baklava is from Grove City. The guy that owns the Main Street Diner there, he makes it all homemade.
They're Greek.
They're Greek, yes, and all their stuff is really, really good.
That's the thing about Greeks too, is we know if you're Greek, we know where you're at. We know the restaurant you own.
Yep, it's great. And then yeah, all of our paninis too. We use Mancini's bread on all of them, which if you've ever had Mancini's bread, it's excellent. And again, that's not obviously as local, but it's still a much smaller business than just buying it off the truck or whatever.
Yeah, right.
So in you networking with other companies, other small businesses, like how did you get started with that? Now I know people know you and your family.
Yeah, so that's helped a lot because a lot of people know my family around here. Basically, I believe it's my great-grandpa. He had 10 brothers, or my great-grandpa, he had 10 siblings, excuse me. Most of them, I believe, like there might have been one girl, but I think they were all guys. So there's a ton of Papas in Newcastle and like West Pittsburgh is where we're originally from. So I guarantee you, if you know a Papa in Newcastle, I'm somehow related to them by second cousin, third cousin, whatever. So that obviously helps a lot. And then also, there's just not a lot of, I mean, there are small businesses here, but it's a small town. So like if you open up a small business here, everyone knows relatively quickly. I haven't paid a lot for advertising, especially because I can't afford to. But we have like a big Facebook page, and like we advertise with the local newspaper, and like just from that, we're busy every day. Everyone is a lot of people have at least heard of us. I'm sure there's a lot of people who haven't necessarily heard of us yet, but they're familiar with the idea just through like word of mouth and people like sharing us on Facebook.
Sure.
So what has been the biggest challenge so far since you had first had this idea?
I'd say probably not getting carried away with it too much. And what I mean by that is I started out 2 years ago with just gelato. And then this was originally going to be a 3 or 4 year plan of like adding the coffee, adding the pastries, adding the sandwiches, even maybe opening all year round. That was going to be like 3 or 4 years down the line. I did that all in 6 months. That wasn't something I wasn't planning on doing, but the way with COVID and everything working out, I just had time on my hands. So I was like, well, let's just see how far we can go with it. But yeah, it's actually surprisingly worked out really well. But again, it's hard to get, like if you get caught up in that, you don't want to overexpand, you don't want to do any of that. But I think we've been real fortunate in being able to keep up with what we're doing.
So you spoke about your family. Who not leave behind the idea of where we're at right now.
Yep.
Who inspires you? What are the top 1 or 2 people that inspired you? Just in general, not just to do this, but who do you admire, I guess, and what are the reasons why? What are the qualities or attributes that you are inspired by?
Again, probably either both my dad and my grandpa in like different ways.
I know you know my grandpa real well, but he's a little bit crazy, obviously.
You don't say.
Just really crazy.
You know what's funny is when people introduce him, they introduce me the same way.
Yeah.
There's always this preface.
No, and
like,
I mean,
like put your seatbelt on, right? Kind of thing.
Exactly. And you need to be a little bit crazy in this world for sure. But he is a little bit crazy, but he's a really hard worker. He started out as a gym teacher, and look at him now. He's a lawyer. He went back to school. He was an assistant principal for a while. He worked his way pretty much from nothing. So obviously a real big role model and inspiration there.
And my dad too. He started the original shop here, so that was without him. I would have had no inspiration to open this, so I wouldn't have even probably known what Gelato is. And then also too, he's a real hard worker. He's built up his own law practice and everything too. Yeah.
So hard work is one of the themes I see.
Yeah, and obviously, whether I realized it or not is something that I possessed too. Getting this all up and running. But yeah, it's real. People say hard work all the time. I think it's something too. You don't really fully understand how hard you're working when you're doing it until you look back on it and you're like, whoa, I just did that. Okay.
Yeah. Well, if you remember, the reason why I started off with asking you about love and what you do, because it's like love covers a multitude of sins.
Yep.
Right? I mean, if you love what you do, the saying is if you find a job that you love, you'll never work another day in your life.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's for you, this is a labor of love.
Exactly.
It's something that you're inspired to do. And you mentioned that in a way with your grandpa, Angelo.
Oh, yeah.
Right? He started off and doing things, I don't want to say lower level, but he worked himself to a position.
Higher position.
But he loves what he does.
Exactly.
And you can tell from meeting him right away.
He's a very passionate person.
But he's passionate about something he loves.
Exactly.
And so, you know, unless you understand that about the person, I think that's like the puzzle piece that is the final puzzle piece to fit into the picture for you to understand that type of person. You know, there's something driving them that they love, and then once you understand what that is, then the whole picture makes sense.
Exactly.
Capiche?
Capiche.
So tell us about, you're in college right now.
Yes.
So you're doing all of this. You're in college, so you clearly have a strong work ethic and a love. But what are you in college for? What's going on there? And where at?
Yes, so I go to Youngstown State. Started there. I'm technically a freshman this year. This will be my second semester. Although I did some classes at college and high school, that kind of stuff. So I'm majoring in history. The plan, though, is to go to law school with that major, like my dad and my grandpa and everyone. Because for law school, they really just want you to have like a high GPA and good grades to like get in there. And I know history is a subject I've always been really good at and I've always really liked, so that made the most sense for me to major in that. But since I took those college and high school classes, I'm technically taking, I think it's junior level history classes or something crazy like that. In all of my spare time I have.
So what I'm hearing is when you go to school to be an attorney, you can get any bachelor's degree.
Oh yeah, pretty much. My dad majored in communications.
That's a good idea. But anything really,
anything
and then
really.
go on to take the.
Yeah, I mean, you can do anything really. I think it makes a lot of sense to do something like history,
Communications, pre-law, like stuff that you'll end up using in your law degree. There's a lot of history classes I can take too, where it's like
history of such and such law, the history of.
What interests you in terms of law?
That's a great question. I think a lot of like business law and that kind of stuff, especially, and I think a lot of that would tie into me obviously owning my own business. It would be helpful for me to have a better knowledge of business law. And like that kind of stuff has always interested me. So basically a lot of the stuff that my dad does. And then he does a lot of like custody cases and that kind of stuff. Just to be able to like help in that kind of situation too. I think it's always good to be able to help and give back to people who obviously are going through something really hard. But yeah.
What about future plans? So you're here, you're expanding your menu. Are you always? You talked about getting a drive-through out here.
Yes.
Right, and in the summer, when we have a summer in Western PA, it's always iffy. The rule of thumb for those who are not familiar. In Western Pennsylvania, no matter what jacket you pick,
it's always the wrong one.
It's always the wrong one. You don't know. Like I could need a parka in an hour. Yeah. I'm not sure.
Or I've done this thing too, where I start out work cold, and then I just have to lose my layers.
Yeah, you have to layer up. You're not sure what's going to bring. It's like it's literally an accordion.
Yeah.
You're not sure what's going to happen.
And then when I'm leaving, it gets cold again, so I can put the layers back on. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
And so the vision here is, in the summer, it's warm. You can sit out here.
Yep.
You can look over the city, and you mentioned that there's music playing at times, right?
Yes. Before COVID, we had live musicians out here every couple weekends and all that kind of stuff. We're hoping to get that back up and running this summer. The nice thing too is now, since we're open in the winter, which we weren't before, we have a nice fireplace here, so you can have your warm coffee and sit by the fire too. So we're trying to create both atmospheres. Because again, it is Western PA, and there's really no telling what the weather will be the day after the next.
And always, in terms of future, always here? Or are you looking at opening sister restaurants?
Yes, expanding for sure.
You are a busy guy.
Yeah, I've always wanted to expand this because I think this is a really neat concept. If you've been to Italy before, if anyone's familiar with like Italian restaurants, a lot of times we'll think like, meatballs, pasta, sausage sandwiches, like that's what you think they eat in Italy. And in some places it is, for sure. But a lot of places it's much different. Like red sauce, for example, is really only popular in southern Italy. In northern Italy, you can't find a lot of red sauce, which if you think about it, it's kind of weird because the first thing you think of is like spaghetti and meatballs. But this type of restaurant that offers panini sandwiches, gelato, and coffee, it's basically an Italian cafe, and they are all throughout the course of Italy. They're just everywhere there. This is where people go after work or before work, or just stop in for a quick bite to eat for lunch or whatever during the course of the day. And there isn't really one of these anywhere in the United States if you think about it. There's not a place you can go to get a gelato, a coffee, and a sandwich. So you have like dessert, you have breakfast with like your breakfast kind of stuff, and you have like a quick kind of lunch. And I honestly think that timing, with obviously everything going on with this horrible coronavirus, has worked out in our favor, because a lot of people don't want that long restaurant experience right now. They want a quick bite to eat, go in, say hi to people, go out, or they want to be distant and see people, which is where a deck comes into play and that kind of stuff, where you can just sit out on the deck, do work, that kind of stuff, just get out of the house. So I honestly think I can see this going, regional, national. I would love nothing more than to have franchises of PapaGelatorias all throughout the country.
Wow.
If you don't set that kind of goal, you'll never achieve it. So might as well aim high and be pleasantly surprised.
Well, I mean, as long as that's what you want. Some people are happy to have one place and run it that way or stay local. But
no, I'm too crazy for that.
Oh, so you do have a little twinge of Angelo in you, huh?
Yeah, more so than my dad, I've heard.
Well, I know that for sure. Right? One of the things that's amazing is you'll never meet two more opposite humans.
It's really funny. It's hilarious.
It's the strangest. It's funny, but also strange. I mean, you have no idea. It's shocking. You're like as far of the pendulum over here.
It makes a lot of sense if you know my grandma, because she's a lot more like my dad. So I think he got a lot of like her genes or whatever in that. Yeah, because if you don't know my grandpa, and you're like, there's no way that they're not related. That doesn't make any sense.
So I always notice. What I always notice is this theme. Your grandpa stomping around everywhere, and your dad's door closed.
Yep.
I'm like, I know why his door's closed.
Oh,
Stay out. I mean, it's for one person.
Yep. It's really funny.
So your future plans then? I mean, not immediately to go national,
No,
but are you
of course
looking at staying around Newcastle, Hermitage? Like, where are you thinking?
Probably when we get a second location, I'd say New Wilmington.
Yeah.
Because we live in New Wilmington right now. We're actually looking at spaces there, so there's a real possibility that a New Wilmington location could be soon. I'm not going to announce anything on that now, but New Wilmington would definitely be the next location in my opinion. It makes a lot of sense. There's a lot more of a population who's willing to spend a little bit more money out there, because gelato is a little bit more expensive than ice cream. It has a lot more flavor, and what you pay for you get, which you can tell even from being here, because we've been wildly successful here. And if you know Newcastle at all, a lot of people don't have a lot of money, and just to spend a couple extra, it's like an extra 50 cents or even $1 on ice cream, that can be a lot for people. But everyone who's tried it I don't think I've ever had a complaint about our pricing. Which my dad was like, "Oh, it's crazy. I don't know."
Yeah, we have Newcastle price.
Yeah,
which is whatever the price is. You got to tell people it's half of that.
Yeah.
I tell my parents when they walk into my house, they're like, "That's a nice new TV. How much was it?" I tell them it was $50, and my dad still gets mad.
Yep. Yeah, but no, it's been crazy.
My mom's like, I drove by one at a garage sale. I could have got you one there. I'm like, yeah, but that probably doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
It probably comes with scabies.
No,
Who knows?
I think too, because we're in a unique position where pretty much everything here, sure, it's a little bit more expensive, but everything's mostly under $10, which
that's not outrageous for what you're doing here. That's common for any type of coffee shop.
And the quality is way better than anywhere else you'd get around here. Because sure, you can go to Dunkin' and it might be a little bit cheaper. Honestly, our pricing's relatively close to the same as Dunkin' Donuts. For iced coffee here, we do coffee ice cubes. So basically, as your coffee melts, you get more coffee. Which you're not going to get that anywhere else, especially around here. You're going to get less coffee.
Yeah, you know what I do to trick the other restaurants when I order iced coffee?
What?
I tell them I just want the coffee and no ice.
See, but then you don't get the cold coffee.
I'm just kidding.
I know.
He doesn't get cold
I don't.
Yeah, you either like it or you don't.
I don't. I'm a hot coffee guy.
Oh yeah.
As he always says, cold coffee is what you drink when your coffee maker's broken.
There you go.
Yeah. It is funny how that works out.
See, New Wilmington would be such a cool place just because there's only one coffee shop I can think of that's out there, which is Muggsy's.
Yep.
And even that, I mean, it's pretty small, but for it being a college town, I'm surprised
there's not more than one coffee shop, because most college towns do have more than one coffee shop.
Right.
If you go, I'm sure Youngstown's a lot bigger.
Oh yeah.
New Wilmington.
A lot.
But there's 6 or 7 coffee shops just on campus. Well, maybe not just on campus, but in that area, there's 6 or 7 coffee shops. And Westminster's still a relatively big college in the grand scheme of things. For them just to have one coffee shop, I don't think by me going there, I would necessarily run them out of town,
No.
or by me being there, they would run me out of town. I think there's more than enough room for 2 or even 3 coffee shops in Wilmington.
Yeah. So with you being as young as you are, what are some of the benefits? What are also some of the struggles that there is with running a business, starting a business at such a young age?
Well, I'd say I'd probably have a lot more energy to run a business because I'm just used to, staying up till 2 in the morning working on college assignments or just that kind of stuff. And it's just sort of the lifestyle that a college student lives, is barely sleeping, occasionally eating, and working all the time. So I think a lot of that is pretty much the same as opening a small business. So it's sort of just like adding a little thing on top there.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably a lot harder for someone to go in and open a business like this when they're in their late 20s or 30s and say they have a family or kids and that kind of stuff. They just don't have that kind of time, which I have that kind of time now. So that's like a unique thing that I think really has helped me like expand so quickly and work so quickly, is I'm not doing a lot of anything else besides this and like my college work. So that is neat.
The other question I have is, so you thought, when you went to Italy, this idea kind of came up in your head. How PapaGelatoria, did I say that right?
You got it.
There we go. Okay.
Nice job.
Okay. How close does this resemble or look like the original vision you had in your head? Like, is it pretty much like a copy and paste?
Honestly, yeah. When I first envisioned it, I honestly first just envisioned doing gelato, though. I never in a million years would have thought I'd be back there pressing Panini Sandwiches. But it's one of those things that I adapted because, sure, I could just do gelato here, but then I couldn't be open in the winter.
Yeah.
And ideally, I'd want to be open all year round because this is my job. I take a salary here. I have to make money, too. So just one of those things that we did that, and then I was like, oh, we can do the coffee. So the coffee is something, too, that's, again, another relatively new idea. It was just one of those things that, well, how can I stay open in the winter? Because I can't just sell gelato. So then that way, it's just sort of adding on to, okay, what will help me be able to stay open all year, be able to pay all the employees, be able to pay myself. So yeah, it's definitely an expansion of the vision, I would say.
What are your most sold gelato flavors? Top 1 or 2?
We try to get a new one in every week or every couple weeks, so it's nice because there's a rotation there. One we'll keep all the time, especially for sure though, is our Belgian dark chocolate. It's really, really good. It's by far our most popular flavor, I'd say. If you're familiar with Death by Chocolate Gelato at all, that's basically the same concept. Again, very excellent. We have a pistachio flavor in right now that everyone seems to love. Yesterday, we just got a new flavor in, Orange Dreamsicle. Really, really good. Our peanut butter cup, I think, would be the last one I can think of because it's real unique. A lot of peanut butter cup ice creams, they do either a chocolate base or a vanilla base. Since this is gelato, we actually do a peanut butter base with actual peanut butter cups inside. So yeah, it's not a lot you can go wrong with there.
No. Well, I saw something online where there's a type of gelato where you add coffee in?
Yes.
What's that?
That's an authentic Italian thing. It's called an Avogado, which basically we do it, you can do it with any gelato. Honestly, I think it tastes the best, and we normally only do it with either our caramel, our chocolate, and the vanilla gelato we have in stock. And we will fresh brew a shot of espresso, and then we'll scoop the gelato in just like a regular coffee cup, and then we'll pour the espresso on top of it.
That's money. That's what I'm trying.
It's really, really good. So basically, I like to tell people it makes sort of like the consistency of a root beer float almost. And then I'll give people like a spoon with it so they can like eat the gelato and the espresso together. And then it eventually melts so you can just drink it. And again, there's anywhere near here you could ever try an Avogado. I can guarantee you that. Honestly, I'm not even sure. Like maybe Pittsburgh. Maybe not even Pittsburgh. I think it's one of those things that's either in Italy or like you'd have to go to like New York City or somewhere to like try one. So it's just a neat thing to bring here that not a lot of people have heard of, and as soon as they try it, they're like, oh my god, this is amazing.
So there's for those of you listening out there, there's a lot of different things you can come and try, whether you're just in the mood for coffee, to sit here and do your work, or get it to go, or to have some desserts, or to try a great, delicious panini, or even this Italian specialty. You got a whole variety to bring you in and try it. So before we wrap up, a couple fun questions for you. Let's say, for example, you were leaving here today, and you see a lottery ticket on the ground, and you pick it up.
Yep.
And you just won $10 million. What would be the first 2 or 3 things you would do?
We'd open a lot more paper gelatoриas for sure. I'm one of those people that, sure, I'd have $10 million and I'd go around and travel and, like, you know, I'd do that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I think I've discovered that I'm happiest working. As weird as that may sound, as long as you're passionate about what you're doing, you're going to want to expand it. Like right now, for example, if I have any extra money, I'll literally just throw it in the business account just to expand and like be able to offer more stuff. Because I know in the long run, the investment in myself is the best investment I could possibly make, and that would in turn make me more money and help me in the long run. So definitely a lot more paper gelatorias with that $10 million. But of course, I'd spend it on some fun stuff too.
Sure.
Nice fancy house and another fancy car or something.
Usually we like to end with a question to go back and talk to your younger self, but considering you are your younger self,
yeah,
we're gonna skip. We'll skip that. It's like, what advice would you give yourself right now, this second? The other thing we like to ask folks, it's just for fun, if you were banished to an island, but everything, you don't have to worry about your friends and your family. They're there.
Yep.
What other 2 things would you bring with you?
That's a hard one. What other 2 things would I bring with me? I mean, if I had my friends and my family there, two things. Okay. Well, I'd probably bring some kind of like entertainment from the island, like a jet ski or like a boat or something, because like that'd be really fun. And then I've decided to, because I don't know if you're familiar with this at all, or if my dad's told you, we moved into an Amish farm when I was real little, so there was a couple months there where like we were waiting for our electricity and our plumbing to come in. So I would definitely want that on this island, since that wasn't specified.
Yeah,
I would want that.
Okay, that's fair. Hey, that's good, right? When you walk in, you want to be able to put a light on.
If I have my friends and my family there, I'm fine. But I can't like live in a hut. That's not going to work for me. I've done that before. Never doing that again.
Excellent. Well, listen, I'm so glad I know you're so busy, and we appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course.
Everything was excellent. We're so glad to be here. If you live in the area or you're coming to visit, please check Alex out online. You have the Facebook page. You can call if you're busy. You can come in here, sit down. We highly recommend it. You are a good man. You got a good head on your shoulders, and you come from a good family. So it was our privilege to be here today.
Yes, thank you guys so much for
Absolutely. Come and see him.